all happily digesting your dinner or the few snacks you just had. And to make it even more peaceful, I would invite you to close your eyes and to think about what you used to be eating as a child and where the food came from. Not so easy to remember? Well, then you can open your eyes again and give me one or some of your teeth, and I will help you finding solutions. No one? Really? Oh, come on! I just need a tiny bit of your tooth. Well, never mind. Then let's try with another question. Have you ever thought about how it is possible to feed our planet in the context of growing population and climate change? Tricky question as well, huh? And now you start wondering, what is the relationship with the skeletons mentioned in the title? Well, I am a bioarchaeologist, and I would like to convince you that these guys can help us find the answers to the question that we just asked. Because my daily life as an archaeologist doesn't really look like that. And actually, it doesn't look like that either. Well, currently, it rather looks like that. And what I do with the bones and teeth in the lab are isotope analysis. Because they can help me understand the stories that the skeletons want to tell us about the past. Hey, how? Well, let me just explain you first what is an isotope so you can better understand the method. An isotope is a variant of an element, for example here carbon. They have the main same properties, but what is important for you to remember is that they have different atomic mass. Hence, they will react in different ways during processes that occur in nature. Let's take the example of evaporation. What do you think? Is it the water molecule with the heavy or with the lighter oxygen isotope that will evaporate the faster? The one with the lighter, of course, thank you very much. And such kind of discrimination also occur during other processes, for example, photosynthesis. C3 plants, like our usual crops and trees in Western Europe, they prefer the lighter carbon isotope when they do photosynthesis. On the other hand, C4 plants prefer nothing much, so they don't care really, because they are more flexible, and they are, for example, including millet or maize or sugar canes, and hence the carbon isotope values are completely different between C3 and C4 plants. Now, the isotope composition of these plants also depends on the environment in which they were growing, in what kind of ecosystem were on Earth, what climate, and also what about water, soil, biological activity, and so on. And now why am I telling you that? Well, because plants and water are at the basement of the food chain. And by eating plants and drinking water, you will incorporate the isotope values into your body tissues, including bones and teeth. And guess what we do find on archaeological excavations? Well, skeletons with bones and teeth. So archaeologists, bioarchaeologists, are interested in measuring the isotope composition of these skeletons in order to find answers about their diet and the environment in which they were born and living. Well, now let me be more precise about the stories that these skeletons can tell us. Let's imagine that we have an archaeological site here in France where I put a cross on the map. We can measure the strontium and oxygen isotope values in the teeth of these individuals. Why the teeth? Because they are built during childhood and they don't remodel. So they keep the information of the diet and the isotope composition of the childhood during the whole life and also in the soil after being buried. So they are very good archives. Now let's take the example of someone, let's call him Nico. Nico has the exact same isotope composition than in the site where he was buried. So it is well possible that Nico was born at this site where he was then buried later. Now Ella has completely different isotope values in her teeth compared to the site where she is now buried. How come? How is that possible? Well, maybe Ella was born in another environment where the isotope composition were completely different from this place now, and so her food was also different. And then she moved to this place where she died later. Now let's have a look at the isotope composition of the bone collagen. The bones are remodeling constantly, so they rather reflect the diet of the last years of life. Now, it is possible that Ella and Nico didn't have only different origins, but also different diet, even though they are living at the same site. And if we have a look at the diet of the other individuals in this site, we might realize that some have the same diet as Nico, and others the same as Ella. Now let's have a look at another information. For example, the diet during childhood. What kind of tissue would I need to use? The teeth, because they are built during childhood and keep the information. And it is well possible that some of these individuals would also already have eaten C4 plants during their childhood. So let's put this into a context. Well, we actually rather expect a C3 plants habitat here. So how come do we have people with a C4 diet? How can we explain that? Do you remember what kind of information we can get when we measure the strontium and oxygen isotope values from the teeth? Well, skeletons are speaking way too much. Well, okay, it's about mobility. Fair enough. So it is possible that not only Ella, but also other people from this group were born at another place and came later on here. Another important information that we know about climatic conditions is that it was a very challenging period in terms of climate. So one story that we could tell about the skeletons is that Ella might have been born in a place, in a community where it was usual to eat C4 plants such as millet. And for some reason, she was moving to another area with people of her community where it was usual to eat C3 plants. But it was a period of challenging climatic conditions, and it was hard to fight against crop failures. But Ella has the knowledge of growing millet, which is a resistant, a very nutritious, and also a quite easy to grow plant. So it was so good to introduce these intercultural and agricultural practices to resist and adapt to these conditions, that other people in the group would also include this diet and these practices. My take-home message for this evening is that there is potential to learn from the past, not only by recognizing things that we should definitely not reproduce, but also by maybe finding out things that we might be able to reintroduce, or to find out where we can and we cannot reintroduce it, depending on the conditions that are coming now. So thank you very much for your attention, and please don't be scared. Show me your teeth.